Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Conservative government talks big on defense, but refuses to support the people who have actually defended us. This minister, the first part-time veterans minister in half a century, has not offered a single new program, benefit, or idea in taking his job. Now, even his own senior advisor, the Veterans Ombudsman, is heaping criticism on the half-time minister. Should Colonel Sobran be worried about keeping his own job like everyone else who's been critical of this government?
The Honorable Minister of Veterans Affairs.
Hello, Monsieur le Président.
Mr. Speaker, of course we are taking this very seriously. We're taking the recommendations and the comments of Mr. Sobran very seriously. I also want to remind that party that since we've been here, we have invested more than $2 billion more in order to provide different aid programs to our veterans. And of course, Mr. Speaker, we pay tribute to those people who defend our country and who are ensuring that we have peace and freedom, and it is in that context that we stand behind them to support them.
Honorable Member for Don Valley West.
Speaker, every new dollar that has been spent on Veterans Affairs has been legislated and has been required. Nothing is new. Colonel Sobran has been traveling the country listening to veterans. He knows that despite their rhetoric, this Conservative government is neither willing nor able to effectively help our soldiers when they come home. Programs, care, and treatment are denied the very people who put their lives on the line for us. When will this part-time Minister of Veterans Affairs take the advice of his own ombudsman? When?
The Honorable Minister of Veterans Affairs.
Monsieur le Président.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to remind this member that while his party refused to take care of Agent Orange and that issue, we intervened and we provided $29 for veterans who had suffered from Agent Orange. Second, Mr. Speaker, we have restored benefits for the Allied veterans, which the other party had cut. We restored those benefits. And third, Mr. Speaker, we have doubled the number of clinics for veterans who are suffering from PTSD, that is post-traumatic stress disorder. So these are three different measures that we have put in place since we've been in power in order to help our veterans.
The Honorable Member for Fleetwood, Port Hills.
Mr. Speaker, thousands of people are obtaining Canadian citizenship by fraud, by lying about how much time they've spent in Canada. The Globe and Mail found 300 people claiming to live at the same address in Mississauga, and Radio Canada exposed a similar scheme going on in Quebec. Will the Minister of Citizenship and Immigration tell us what the government is doing to crack down on those who obtain their Canadian citizenship illegally, even though they live permanently abroad?
Great question.
Honorable Minister of Citizenship and Immigration.
Thank the member for her question, her hard work on these issues. Mr. Speaker, it is true that we see many very troubling criminal investigations into citizenship fraud, sometimes hundreds of people applying for citizenship registered at the same false address. We're taking action on this, Mr. Speaker, to preserve and protect the value and integrity of Canadian citizenship. We will be regulating citizenship consultants. We will be clarifying that residency in Canada requires actual physical presence here rather than just a post box. We will be increasing penalties for citizenship fraud to $100,000 or 5 years in jail, and we will be streamlining the process to revoke citizenship from those who obtained it fraudulently, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Member for St. John's East.
The government is rushing into a multi-billion-dollar fighter jet procurement just after modernizing the fleet, forging ahead with what amounts to a sole source contract, cutting out competitors, sidetracking a transparent bidding process that would have produced strong industrial region benefits and creating jobs and supporting aerospace industry in Canada. Mr. Speaker, does the Minister of Defence still plan to go ahead with the advanced contract award notice, and can he explain the rush and the recklessness of this deal?
The Honorable Parliamentary Secretary, the Minister of National Defence.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the government has committed to acquiring the next generation fighter capability as part of the Canada First Defence Strategy. This represents a key capability in taking the Canadian forces. The government has not yet made a decision. The main procurement process will conform to government rules, and I can assure you, Mr. Speaker, that whatever procurement process is followed, it will benefit the Canadian forces, it will benefit Canadian industry.
The
Honourable Member for Tremont. Mr. Speaker, a military contract such as this one could be a lifesaver for a Canadian aerospace industry that has been hard hit by the economic crisis. When many subcontracts for civil planes are going abroad, military contracts are more resistant to this kind of transfer to other countries. What is difficult to understand is that they're prepared to give a $10 billion contract to the Americans without a tender call and without a guarantee with regard to industrial regional benefits. If the Americans are able to impose their ITOL rules in our plants here, how is it that we're not even able to get our piece of the pie for our own planes? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of National Defence.
Absolutely rubbish. Whatever contract is signed is going to benefit Canadian forces and Canadian industry. But it's a bit rich coming from these guys who didn't want us to buy the C-17. Well, I can tell you the soldiers in Afghanistan who depend on it are happy. The people of Haiti whose lives we saved are happy. These are the same guys who didn't want us to buy the Leopard tank. Well, I can tell you that the Taliban may agree with that, but I can tell you that the Canadian forces' lives have been saved in Afghanistan are sure glad we did that.
The Honourable Member for Hunsik. Order. Mr. Speaker, 74% of Quebecers and 85% of young people aged 18 to 24 believe that the gun registry should be maintained. Only the Bloc represents Quebec's interests because the Conservatives and half of the NDP caucus want to dismantle the gun registry. Furthermore, there are no guarantees that all the Liberals will show up to vote in order to keep the registry. Why will the government stop its policy of demolishing the gun registry, a registry that is saving lives? The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
It is quite clear, in fact, that our government is committed to the elimination of the wasteful long gun registry. We want to focus on effective measures that actually keep crime rates down, rather than criminalizing the farmers and the hunters in my riding and other ridings across rural Canada. I would invite those members of the NDP and those members of the Liberals who voted in favor of C-391 to vote for it again to ensure that we eliminate that wasteful long gun registry.
The Honourable Member for Hunsik. Mr. Speaker, there is a Quebec consensus on gun control. The National Assembly has also passed 3 unanimous motions to that effect. Police officers, public health specialists, the Bar Association, families of victims of crime, women's groups. 67% of respondents in the Quebec City region are demanding that the gun registry be maintained. How can the Conservative members from Quebec, how can they claim to represent Quebec when they oppose the broad consensus on this matter? The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
I think it is clear that while we support the licensing of people and the registration of prohibited and restricted weapons, we do not support the wasteful long gun registry. And if that member actually communicated truthfully to her constituents about what the indications are in terms of the long gun registry, I believe that there would be a dramatic change in even those who presently support the long gun registry.
The Honourable Member for Random, Huron St. George's.
Mr. Speaker, Conservative political staffers have been caught illegally interfering with requests made under the Access to Information Law, and no one is being held accountable. As part of its investigation, the Ethics Committee has exercised its right to call Dimitri Soudris as a witness. But the Prime Minister seems to think his Director of Communications is somehow too delicate a butterfly to answer questions about his conduct. If the Prime Minister really believes accountability is more than an empty election slogan, would he instruct Mr. Soudris to respect the legal summons and appear before the committee?
Yes.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Prime Minister.
Political staff members are merely respecting a decision of the cabinet of this country, which is to continue with the 3 centuries-old tradition of ministerial responsibility. And the Liberal Party continues to go hard and try to destroy reputations. But here I have a letter that was sent to the member from a Liberal member from Montreal, who had originally filed an ethics complaint against the Minister of Industry when he tried to support small business in his riding. And it indicates, quote, "I will not be conducting an inquiry or an examination of this matter at this time." The reason that she cites is that there's simply no evidence whatsoever of wrongdoing. We have a terrific industry minister that upholds the highest standards.
The Honourable Member for Random, Huron St. George's.
Mr. Speaker, the fact fact is, no one has the right to block a committee from calling a non-parliamentarian as a witness, neither the Prime Minister or the Cabinet. So what's happening here is that a committee is being frustrated for no good reason. Well, Mr. Sugas Boss, the Prime Minister, agreed to appear before the Ethics Committee and explain why he is ordering his staffers to break the law and not respect their legal summons.
Yes. The Honourable Parliament returns to the Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we are relying upon hundreds of years of parliamentary tradition, which originates deep in the history of the British Westminster model of democracy, wherein ministers who are members of this House of Commons are responsible for the actions of their staff and their departments and answer on their behalf. We are taking responsibility, we are holding accountability, and we are doing so right in front of these parliamentary committees. Leadership starts at the top, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Ottawa